Welcome to the program. I'm going to do some housekeeping today before we get started. So first of all, join the team, jump on, subscribe, click the button, it's free, just helps with everything we're doing. So we've got new merch coming for the series, so t-shirts, hoodies, there's a link in the description below. So really easy to do, just go on, there's a cart, click. Really nice shirt, I like the sort of soft tee. So we've got these in special, look forward to seeing those when they come out. So click on that. It'll be a pre-order for now and they should be out within a couple of weeks. So this week we're going to cover, I've got the boot lid finished, engine bay, we've made some progress there, a bit of welding and stuff going on, a bit of heat shrinking, interesting stuff. And then I've also booked the gearbox in to go off to Precision Racing. So I've got to crate that up, send that up to Sydney. They're going to build that up to handle the 700 horsepower this thing's got. And I've added a bit of colour with some lawn porn and also a little bit of furniture. You'll see we're in lockdown, Heather's been out working and doing a bit, so I've been helping her out with that. So hope you enjoy and talk to you at the end. So the front edge of the boot lid, I'm just welding that up now, so a whole lot of fun welding all the way across here. So I've got one half done. So the black line on there, I marked out, I made up a little gauge like that I set up against the stainless steel strip and put a texture in that hole and just ran it along to give me a guide. So I had it on the boot, and while it was on there with everything masked up, I ground it down so I had like 5mm gap all the way across there, and then tacked it together and then took it off so that I could work my way along and do all of this, which is quite painstaking, but it's got to be done. So I've put that boot back on, I've had it off welding it. So now I've got 4 of these. I've ground some of the 6.5mm down to 5.5. So I've got 4 of those stuck in there so that I can make sure it's centered. Got myself lined up back through here again. And now that I've got that done and ground up, between the stainless and the boot lid itself, there's a little bit of variance there, which I'll straighten in a minute, but I'm running between 4.5 and 5.5. So I'll mask that back up in a moment and run the disc along there and get that ready. And then the next stage is the other side. I've done the body lines through here. So now this one's just a little bit proud here, it's good there. And then this shape here is not quite right. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that shortly. It's looking pretty sharp though. So the edge of this boot lid's sitting a little bit high here. Not too bad in the middle, probably wants to come up just a couple of mil, and then it's got the wrong curve on the end here. So I'm just gonna do a little trick that someone showed me a long time ago. Can't remember who it was. Just put a towel in there where I want it to move from. I don't know if that'll close, but we'll try. No, not gonna close, but what I'm gonna do now is put some weight on here somewhere. Give that a bit of a pull, and if you just get a bit of pine, builder's pine basically, something fairly soft. Some are softer than others, and then get my big hammer as usual and just apply a bit of load on here. Doesn't take much of a hit with that big hammer. So I'm good from there all the way now up to there. So this has come up a mil. This has gone down, just wants a little bit more through there. So remembering I've got the boot rubber on, so it's all sitting nice and tight where I want it to be. So that's looking pretty darn good. I just need a bit more down and a bit more up. And the trick is to try and move the load over a wide area. If you hit it with a hammer, you're going to end up with a whole lot of dents. So this way, you end up with a big dent instead of a little dent. But so I just put half the thickness in there, and if I just give this a pull on that edge, I reckon that'll just about give me what I need. So this is a good example why you don't lean on cars, because it doesn't actually take that much to bend them. As you can see what I'm talking about there now, so you know, the tiny little hide, that might have been one of the original spot welds. And it's looking pretty darn good all the way to here. Now I've just got to do a little bit with this. So I'm going to put the towel back under here to support that and then try and push this down. Righto, so to push this down I've got a different bit of wood now. So this one's been ground up for another job that I just found. So I'm going to sit that in that reverse curve there. Because this is supporting it, it's going to want to bend from here, so I've just got to be a little bit careful with it. Righto, so we're good all the way along to here, and then we've just got this horrible looking piece here. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. So sneaking up on that now, just got to get this bit here. So hopefully this is the last run with the sander along here, so I'm just going to get going with it, and I only need about 1.5 mil across here. So that's enough of that for today. I'm feeling a bit cranky. Starts to push the nerves a bit, but really starting to take some shape now. You've got that nice even gap happening everywhere. But there's always something else you can find or do to it, so I'll leave it for tonight. Have a look fresh tomorrow and see what little tweaks I might give it, but pretty darn happy with that. And there's the phone. So I've made a decision with the opening here. We're just going to make up these little panels with the rolled piece in it, and then put a piece in here, and then the inner guard piece will come in, which I'll show you later. So I didn't think I'd be able to roll that edge in there and up over this ridge and make it nice. So I've made the 4 little pieces and then set it up on the car and got it all nice and symmetrical. So now I'm going to TIG those in there, and I'll be able to hammer that up before it goes on. And then we've also put the holes in for the hinges. So we're trying to work towards being able to put this in the car and weld it in. So this front bit's starting to look pretty cool now. So I think I mentioned before, we've made those separate because I couldn't see how I could do it on that one piece. This is all made out of 1.2. And to get that rolled edge to go around the corner, decided to do it that way. And then we've added a piece into the top here now. So when the hat goes on there, that'll look good from the other side. So that's really starting to look exactly how I imagined it. So we'll get, that'll go on once the panel goes in. So I've got the holes made there for the bonnet hinge. So we'll do some plug welds from the back and fully seam weld along this top edge here. So that'll be a nice big long weld there, and then same all the way along the bottom. So because these side panels are potentially going to be under torsional stress, rather than just weld along the top, I'm actually putting the holes through there, and we'll do some spot welds or some plug welds from the back. So when you're going to fully weld things, it's not a good idea to rely on that and that only. You really need to have a bit more than that, so that'll just add a bit more strength and help when we get our test done to make sure that it's going to pass for rego. So these panels for the front, you see the video earlier where we tacked those up and had them in the car. So now I've welded them up, and we've got a little bit of distortion happening where anything you weld in a corner like that's always going to want to sort of pull the metal and move it around. So I'm just rubbing my hand over it, and I've got a high here on that corner. So I'm just going to heat that up, put a little heat shrink on that, and see if we can pull that back into shape. So I'm just going to use oxy. You can use a small gas torch as well, but I like the oxy, I can get it fairly tight. So I'm just going to put a bit of heat here, and you'll see it rise up. And then I'm going to use the hammer and the dolly to work that metal back into itself, and then flatten it down and then cool it off with some water. I'm just going to try and get the centre of that. I reckon I need to pull that metal in from fairly wide out. You see it rising up now, I'll just get it nice and hot. Should have my earmuffs on, I think. You see with a hammer, the idea is to try and pull that metal back in while it's hot, so you're actually moving the metal around. And I can see that coming down, which is good. So when you do this, sometimes you've got to chase it a bit. So we've still got a bit of rock and roll there, but I'm going to give that a bit of a hammer, put my earmuffs on and take a bit of tension out of that now. Okay, so I'm just going to try and move a bit of metal around here. I've got a fair bit of wonk in it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'll just have a bit of a flip and feel what's going to happen. So I've got quite a low here, which is a high on the other side, obviously. This there, it makes me feel like it wants another shrink, but I can't see why it should have one. I think we'll just put another shrink there. So when I'm doing that, it's actually pushing the hot metal back into itself. So whilst the water shrinks the metal, I'm actually trying to push that metal back into itself. That made a big difference, that one. So remember, we've got a weld all the way up through here as well, so I'm not too fussed. I just don't want big oil cans in it, so that's not bad. I'll give that a bit of a whack up and that should be all right. Too bad, that'll slap up all right. Righto, so with this inner bay here, I've got an area that I need to actually move down because it's not quite working out where the steering goes. So I'm just going to heat that up red hot. It's got a fair bit of support from the back, so I'm going to heat it up, give it a whack with a hammer and hopefully get the shape I'm looking for. When all else fails, get a bigger hammer. So this came out pretty good for such a crude way of doing it, but couldn't see what else I could do really. So I'm going to give that a hit now with the Scotch-Brite on the 4-inch and see how it comes up. So I did end up running it over the, put a dolly under there and give it a little quick hammer. And then a quick Scotchy, and I'm very happy with that. So that's the baby there, just a bit of a Scotch-Brite job. So the gearbox in this is out of the FG, and then it's got a spacer plate that's been made by Anything Racing up in Brisbane. And the adaptation now, so this is big block Ford, and then one off piece, FG. So now we're just making everything fit to each other and shape a bit better before the gearbox goes off and gets built. So we've had to do a little bit of tidying up, and then we'll need to lineage all this up and make it look nice. So the front looks a bit like a car now. This has been a long time coming. These panels have been on and off so many times. Changes made, yeah, it just gets so exhausting sometimes that you just almost lose focus on what you're trying to achieve. But the front's going together, it's looking like a car. So we're in the process of doing the spot welds. Well, they're not a spot weld, and I said that on the other video. They're a plug weld. So we drill the holes and plug them, and that gives us that extra strength that I was talking about earlier. And then once that's done, we'll weld along the top edge as well. Good penetration happening there. Righto, so there's a whole lot of welding being done there now. So I really probably should have got another video, because the top edge started grinding it and then realised I didn't do a video of it before. So fully welded that all the way along the top, and it's been ground up with the 125mm 40 grit, and it's now just showing a few spots here that need a bit more weld in them, and then I'm going to create a radius like that with a couple of different files. So I'll show that in the next video. Righto, so this is really looking good. So this side's just about done now. We've obviously got to fix this now. So it was a fair bit of debate about whether this should or shouldn't have been here, because without it, you've got that big flat thing happening, but I really like the look. It is a Ford. I want it to be a Ford, and I just love the look, and I think it'll be sensational. So I found another use for the old Merca sander, battery operated. Heather's been doing a bit of work around the yard and been doing a bit of furniture sanding, so check this out. How good's that? Originally got them for polishing, but finding they're awesome for this sort of stuff too. No noise, plenty of grunt. So I thought I'd try and add a bit of colour into this week's video. So a little bit of lawn porn, not looking too bad for this time of year. Don't have to mow it too often, that's a bonus. Although I do enjoy the lawn mowing, to be honest with you. So this is our little back lawn. It's kaikuri as well. It's been holding up pretty good, gets good sun in the winter, and that's our lovely outlook. Looking over Mount Kira. Anytime.